to a talk that you gave recently on alternative radio called From Birmingham to Bethlehem, and talking about the connections between the Palestinian struggle for freedom and dignity, how it can take lessons from the Black liberation movement. And I'm just wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the question because this is such a huge issue. And it's been a major issue. I mean, there was a poll that came out earlier this year that said 1 in 6 Black Americans were considering not voting. And one of the main reasons why was defense of the Palestinian people. So this is a wide running thing. I would encourage people also to go back. I rarely recommend the New York Times, but to read both of Charles Blow's editorials from earlier this year about young Black voters in Palestine and how many younger Black voters were saying at that time it was Biden. But, speaking about the visceral nature of this connection, which for so many of us, I'm only 38, but people my age and younger, is connected to Ferguson and the fact that it was Palestinians who came onto social media and were telling, strugglers in the streets of Ferguson how to fight through tear gas. That was the same tear gas being used in Palestine and in the streets there. But of course, it's the renewal of this significant long-term push that was, really in many ways inaugurated by Malcolm X in a modern sense. He traveled to Gaza in 1964. He met with the leadership of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And really, it was his stewardship of trying to build those bridges that led to bridges being built by Ethel Minor, one of his aides, with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, that then became a major voice in the 1967 war in solidarity with Palestine. And then the rise of the Black Panthers, the Black Power movement, the radical subset of the Black Liberation Movement, Republic of New Africa, the African Liberation Day protest. Solidarity with Palestine became fundamental. I mean, one, because you had Black Americans who I rightfully, in my view, viewed themselves as an oppressed people and thus could see a relationship between the Palestinians as an oppressed people, but also recognizing that around the world, in the areas where the African diaspora or on the African continent and issues the African diaspora was concerned with apartheid and colonization, that Israel was one of the number one supporters of apartheid and other regimes like that. And it created a widespread, wide-ranging that by the early 1980s, the most mainstream sections of Black American political opinion were looking to express solidarity with the Palestinian people because they were looking to use that as a signal and as a sign to the broad mass of Black people who they were calling on for votes, for money, for support, for their organizations or their political campaigns, that they were in tune with the politics of the Black community. Like Palestine became a way to show you are in tune with this history of Malcolm X, of the Black Panthers, of Kwame Ture, of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, of June Jordan, of all these different people. This was your way to signal that. And I think that this is something that has been renewed in our recent period. And we're seeing a lot of this play out in our current politics when we're seeing how Cori Bush, for instance, heavily targeted for her positions in favor of Palestine. Jamal Bowman, who quite frankly, was even kind of like a soft supporter of Israel, but even that was too much, for the Zionist lobby, and he also was targeted. So it seems very clear, I think, for we look at that continuum, that Zionists in America, the supporters of Israel, are fully aware not only of this history, but of the moral authority of the Black liberation movement that has helped catalyze the Palestinian solidarity movement by associating quote unquote Black Lives Matter, the movement for Black lives, with the movement for Palestinian freedom and self-determination, and that actually can drive many non-Black people, many non-Arab and Muslim people into the corner and into the camp of Palestine.
Yeah, it seems like after 2020 is when I started seeing a lot more street action around Palestine, actually often led by people who are associated with Black Lives Matter. I remember in May 2021 when the Israelis were, raiding and harassing I can't remember the name of the neighborhood right now, but near Jerusalem, is that we started seeing like say it again.
Sheikh Jarrah.
Yeah, Sheikh Jarrah. We started seeing like a lot of street action in the U.S. in support of the Palestinian struggle.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And, even we remember Rifat al-Arir, many people who have seen the Palestinian poet who was assassinated in Gaza. He was the co-founder of a group called We Are Not Numbers. And they put up a giant, beautiful mural of George Floyd on the apartheid wall and, consistently showed solidarity with Black liberation struggles. And we saw in the 2020 period and the post-2020 period into 2021 that this is a real connection. I mean, it's not small. And I mean, it goes from, even mainstream groups. I mean, we're talking about this year, the NAACP and the African Methodist Episcopal Church, two of the most mainstream groups in the Black community, calling not just for a ceasefire, but for an arms embargo. And so
Mm.
that really, I think, is also a reflection of how deep the street actions, the organizing, the political education has been among especially Black young people around the issue of Palestine, and how it really has made it a mainstream issue in Black America.
Do